Today on the Eurostep.
Blazers get swept.
It's all going down in Boston.
And Spurs do all. Hi, I'm Musheen Brown and this is the Eurostep on CRC. This week I'm joined by Killian Loftus.
Yeah.
And Alex Evans.
Senator, we run ads.
You sound a little bit different today, Alex.
You could say that.
Senator, we run ads.
Oh my god.
Team Eurostep soundboard coming to an app store near you soon. Look out.
Yeah, so our week and a half hiatus, that's what we've been working on.
Oh, Lord.
It's really not. I shouldn't have lied.
No. Sorry guys. So we're just going to talk...
That's the one we need. That's the word one.
Can we just move
What?
on? Like,
Let's
just get into
well,
the
let's go.
episode.
Yeah, so a lot has been happening in the last week and a half. The playoffs have taken full swing. We're
Season, baby.
nearly finished the first round. We're going to start with the Western Conference and the game with the 1 and 8 seeds. The Rockets beat Timberwolves in 5. I'll start with you, Killian. What do you make of it?
It was a gentleman's sweep in Houston. I think we kind of predicted it properly, really. It was Houston dominated the series. Minnesota managed to steal a game. I think one of the main reasons why Houston won the series so easily was Karl Anthony Towns. He was absolutely terrible all series long. He really couldn't do anything against Capella, who's kind of the perfect defender for him. He can defend the basket, but he's also mobile enough to defend the perimeter. Same can be said for Jeff Teague against Chris Paul. They really couldn't do anything against those two very good defensive players. The kind of scary thing as well is Harden had some bad games in the first round and Houston still blew them out in each of those games, I believe. One positive for Minnesota was the play of Derrick Rose, though. He might not be with them next year, but he did play very well. He's definitely earned himself a contract this summer if any concern was there about whether or not he would have a team to go back to come the end of free agency.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if it's a positive for the Timberwolves or if it's just a positive for Derrick Rose's career. We've had many discussions in the past about is it his time? MVP Rose is finally back, but he's had a few strings of games together in the playoffs where he looks like he's done well, and if he can keep that play up consistent, he will get paid in the off season. But another kind of positive I think for the Timberwolves that was overlooked was the play of Andrew Wiggins, with Karl Anthony Towns almost disappearing at time. Wiggins really stepped up and he showed his value. Obviously, he was unhappy earlier on in the year, but like we predicted, the gentleman's sweep. The Rockets just had too much. Their stellar offense. They put up 50 points alone in the third quarter of Game 5 to steal that, and they really did need the confidence of that. As you said, Harden and Paul both kind of had a couple of rusty games where they didn't look great, but they do need the confidence going into the second round because I believe they're going to be playing Utah or OKC.
The winner of that series.
And both teams there are looking pretty good. So it'll be a tough second round for them.
Yeah, like the Rockets, I don't know if people really expected the Timberwolves to go down so easy. You know,
We did. Team Eurostep
We said it would.
nothing.
Well, like, you know, we've said the Rockets might be a little bit, you know, they're people. I suppose they say they're going to win the championship and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and well, like, you know, they may not get to the finals. They'll probably get to the Western Conference Finals, but you know, the way that they've played, they've shown that they're pretty good. In case there had been doubters.
And you know it's a great team when, their MVP, their leader of that team, James Harden, can put up 14, 15 points in the game and they still win. It was the game Harden put up 14 points, didn't shoot well, didn't play well, but then you have Chris Paul to step up, another star point guard in the league who can step up. I believe he had like 28, 29 with a plethora of assists. So it helps when you have so many great players on that Rockets team.
Houston were brilliant, but I still wouldn't say they're guaranteed to make the finals, win the championship. I'm not convinced.
I wouldn't say they're guaranteed to make the Eastern Conference Finals, to be fair.
Houston.
In the East.
Or the West Conference Finals,
Where are you
excuse
going?
me. I mean, we've seen Utah and OKC, how good they've been against each other. That's looking like it's going to be one of the top series in the first round. and the Rockets played well, but they weren't massively convincing. No one for the Timberwolves played outstanding. All the players had games where they kind of disappeared. No one showed up in Game 5 for them, and the Rockets kind of blew them out in the water on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, like you said, no one really played well, and you kind of compare that to the Golden State Warriors, where you have Kevin Durant. He's going to get 20 points no matter what. Klay Thompson, he'll do his thing. Even if he's not playing well offensively, he'll have an impact on the defensive end.
Same
Steph
goes
Curry
for
as well.
Draymond Green.
Yeah, Steph Curry will get 20 points every game. Draymond Green, he'll have near triple doubles every game, even if it's not with points. I don't think comparing them to the Timberwolves they just played, it's really not a comparison that can be made. So there's nothing really to take away from them destroying the Timberwolves like this.
How disappointed should Timberwolves fans be?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all. Karl Anthony Towns is, 3 years in the league now?
3 years, yeah.
Andrew Wiggins is only 4. This is their first time in the playoffs since 2004, is it?
It is.
So, 14-year drought. They stole a game. I don't think anyone was really expecting much more. Maybe a bit more of a fight in the games they lost. But we know they're a team for the future. People thought they might make the playoffs this year, and they were in good shape before Butler went down with his injury, of course. And they got unlucky towards the end of the year, but no doubt they'll be back next year stronger, and especially with their young players having gained that experience and just being better players overall.
Yeah, talking about next year, the West in general will be amazing to watch next year. Just the playoff race. You have the 8 teams that are already there. They're going to stay where they are. Denver Nuggets will improve more. Lakers,
Suns,
maybe, if they pick it up a little bit. It'll be an incredible playoff race next year. I think the Timberwolves will pick it up with their young guys. They'll get better. They have to, or else that trade is looking pretty lopsided towards the Bulls.
Yeah. The next series we're going to talk about is the Golden State Warriors and San Antonio Spurs. The Warriors won this also by 4-1, and it was fairly convincing for Golden State despite missing what most people probably say is their MVP, Steph Curry. Start with you, Alex. What do you think?
Yeah, it was a good series for Golden State. Again, like San Antonio, I think more people might thought they would have put up more of a fight, but as we said, could happen as well at Golden State with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson that could show up and start actually playing basketball. They were a very lackluster team coming into the playoffs. They were slumping a bit, and many people had it's hard to say forgotten, but people had they were sleeping on the greatest team of all time at that point. They came in and they really asserted their dominance with the gentleman's sweep. Probably could have been a sweep if Manu Ginobili's heroics in Game 4 to prevent that. Hopefully he keeps going another year. So they did their thing, the Warriors. They all played well. Nothing too surprising. I think they're going to move on. And they need the confidence as well, like Houston, because they're going into that series with the Pelicans starting Saturday, and that's going to be a difficult series for them, especially with Curry being questionable for Game 1. So he might be back anywhere between Game 1 to Game 3 or 4 even. So they're going to need to come out and win them first couple of games at home.
This series is kind of just more of a showcase for the Golden State Warriors. They were absolutely amazing. They weren't even on their A game. They completely dismantled the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games without their 2-time MVP, point guard, one of the best players in the NBA, and they didn't even look like they missed him. That was a bit of a concern going into the playoffs. Would they miss the play of Steph Curry? They had a slump towards the end of the regular season. But they've really showed that they coast the regular season, at least this year, and they'll pick it up for the playoffs, no questions asked. There's nothing on the Spurs. They were fine, but this is the Warriors we're talking about. There's not much you can do against the greatest team of all time, even if they are missing their 2-time MVP. I think the play of Dejounte Murray was something to kind of look forward to for Spurs fans. He's kind of their future, especially as it looks like Kawhi Leonard will leave. Even if he stays, which is unlikely, he'll still be the kind of second option behind Kawhi Leonard. Right now, he's already one of the best defensive guards in the NBA.
You just say he's going to be the second option.
If Kawhi Leonard stays, which isn't happening.
He's going to be second option anyway behind LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, but he's going down soon. We're talking like
Yeah,
3-4 years time. 3-4
Yeah,
years
yeah,
time,
yeah.
Deontay Murray will be the man for the Spurs,
100%.
unless they somehow get Doncic, which I wouldn't put it past them. Like I was saying, he's already one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. He'll get multiple first-team all-defensive appearances in his career, I'd say. He's a player for the future to look forward to. I think that's one of the bright spots for the San Antonio Spurs, and a bit of a tough series for them to swallow.
Yeah, I suppose for Spurs fans, it's not just about this series, it's about the next few years. If, just say, Kawhi Leonard does get traded, LaMarcus Aldridge is going down, this could be the last we've seen of Ginobili and Parker. What's left of that for the Spurs in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, it's hard to know with the Spurs. Obviously, you can tell they're coming to an end. With Kawhi out this year, they lost their 50-win season streak, which
Almost
was going
didn't make
on.
the playoffs.
Almost didn't make the playoffs. I was just going to come to that. But the Spurs fans were excellent throughout the series. They showed nothing of, hatred towards their team. They came out in Game 4 and played it like it was a Game 1 or a Game 7. They were so excited and so hyped, especially towards the end of the game when Ginobili came out. And because it's the Spurs, we know they're a top-tier franchise, prestige of NBA franchises. We know their front office is going to find a way to turn what they have now into something promising for the future, but good at the same time. They could be in rebuild mode and still make the 6th seed.
It's just San Antonio
It's
Spurs.
the kind of thing the Spurs are going to do.
Okay, yeah, so the Warriors will be playing the Pelicans in the next round. Maybe something we didn't expect, but what we certainly didn't expect was the Pelicans to sweep the Blazers, considering the Pelicans were the 6th seed, not the 3. And, well, they had just brilliant performers across the team, Killian.
Nobody could have predicted this happening. I think it's probably one of the few times in NBA history that this has happened, with 6 seed sweeping a 3 seed. It was a bit of it was an absolute massive shock. I just like to say I said the Pelicans were going through.
If you want to go back to that episode, he just said, I just need an upset in here somewhere.
You see, you cover both tracks. Because if I
said
said the Pelicans were going to win and the Blazers won, you'd be like, you're so stupid. Obviously the Blazers were going to win. But then when the Pelicans win, I covered my backtracks. But the Pelicans were absolutely amazing. They completely destroyed the Blazers. The Blazers couldn't do anything against them. A kind of weird big three for the Pelicans, I suppose you could say. Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, and playoff Ronto were absolutely incredible.
Don't forget Nikola Mirotic without the beard.
The Loki.
Without the beard.
Maybe make it a big 4 for them. The Blazers couldn't do anything. The Pelicans played great defense on Damian Lillard, who, what do you average, like 18 points per game on 35% shooting?
Yeah, and even less on 3-point attempts, I believe 31% from 3.
I think their strategy was to double team him out of the pick and roll, or even sometimes straight away, which is never good for a player.
Yeah, it shows up and even in the box scores. McCollum had to step up. I believe he was about 28 points a game.
Yeah.
He didn't shoot fantastic, but the offense has to come from somewhere, and obviously you can tell that they were focusing on Dame, who's really showed he's a top tier point guard towards the end of this year. But yeah, as Killian said, New Orleans were just unbelievable with some great play to just completely dismantle the Blazers defense. AD averaged 33 points, 12 rebounds and 3 blocks for the series. Drew Holiday with a very solid 22-7 and a big presence on the defensive end, and they shot the ball incredibly well, and if they can keep up that shooting for the entire playoffs, then they could be a dangerous team. I mean, just going through some of the players here, Anthony Davis shot 58%, Drew Holiday with 57, Mirotic with 57 and 46 from 3. So many guys there shooting the ball well. Even Rondo shooting 43% from the 3-point range. A guy that cannot shoot the basketball. And much the same story with their true shooting. Guys like Davis 65%, Holiday 63%, Nikola Mirotic 71% true shooting. If they can keep that up, it's going to be very hard for any defense in the playoffs to stop them.
Yeah, it was funny at times looking at the Blazers' defense, trying to handle.
Sheen, death isn't a funny matter.
Whoa! Well, looking at the way Rajon Rondo was playing, and they were so afraid of his pass that he could just fake it and put up the shot, and he had so much space because they were so afraid of his pass. They kind of forgot, he can shoot too.
A
little bit, enough, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was
Barely.
hey, he did enough, and that's the important part. He's averaging a couple points more, in the playoffs now. But it's just he's getting easier shots now, because at least in that round anyway. We'll see how the Warriors deal with them, but we'll talk about that in a later episode. Finally, out west, the only series that is still being played, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 3-2 against the Utah Jazz.
Down 3-2.
Down 3-2. Apologies, Alex.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic series thus far. The play of Donovan Mitchell, averaging 1 point less than the MVP James Harden in the first round. That's just something to go by. I believe he's averaging 28.5 points for the series, which is just phenomenal play from Mitchell, the rookie, who, we were kind of asking questions here. Could he show up? It was going to be a big stage. It was going to be difficult against OKC's big three, especially who have some good defenders there as well, in Jeremy Grant and Paul George, that can do a job if he started getting hot. But it's not just the play of Mitchell that's leading them. It's his leadership and the play of other guys really stepping up as well. Rudy Gobert on the defensive end. Ricky Rubio is playing phenomenally. He had a triple-double there recently in Utah. And even Joe Ingles, who got hot the last day, putting up 3-pointers. Jay Crowder as well. He was fire the last night. He's been well in that starting role. It looks like the old Jay Crowder of old in Boston, again in Utah.
In his prime.
In his prime. But they look like they have so many options, so much they can do. If one guy's not playing well, they can sub him out. They have so much they can do. It's not like the Thunder, who if Westbrook and Paul George aren't playing well, it's going to be a rough game. So Utah, they're playing great team basketball, and it looks like they could put OKC out in the first round, and they'd be saying goodbye to Paul George.
If they do lose in the first round, like you mentioned, I cannot see Paul George staying in Oklahoma. He has expressed that he does like it in OKC, but come on, you're not going to stay somewhere where you lose in the first round. That's why he left Indiana in the first place, so he could escape the realm of LeBron James
and head to the Lakers, where he's not even going to make the playoffs. You can't lose in the playoffs. You don't make them.
Well, whoa. Okay, hit marker. Yeah, like it's obviously OKC can still win.
Definitely.
They take one away game. It's not impossible by any.
Big Game 5 performance from Russell Westbrook and Paul George.
Yeah, it was
45.
Phenomenal.
15-7.
With that monster comeback.
He outscored the Utah Jazz in the last 20 minutes. Yeah. Which is.
But Mitchell showed us confidence with the video, saying to the OKC fans who were trash talking him, he leaving the Bills, and Mitchell said, "It's alright, we'll see you all next year," stating that they might be getting sent home.
Yeah, but that could go either way. Like, see y'all next year, or we're getting bounced first round.
Yeah,
but they can't lose.
You didn't phrase it too well.
They can't lose in Utah.
No.
They're gonna see the OKC fans, and if they do, it's gonna be for Game 7.
Yeah, OKC, we've seen, what they can do, but what do they need to do to win this series, to pull those 2 games back?
Carmelo Anthony needs to come out of the grave.
Paul George needs to give more Game 1 performances.
Playoff P
needs to come back.
That died quick.
And Russell Westbrook probably needs to put up a 50-point triple-double both games.
Probably.
Wait.
If Melo can score 20 on respectable efficiency.
It depends. Game 6 is going to be big, and if it goes to Game 7, nerves could be involved. I don't think Russell Westbrook is going to get too phased by that. Whereas, I know we doubted him coming into playoffs, but Game 7 in the playoffs is a different thing altogether, especially in OKC.
And we've seen Russell Westbrook is the man for the big occasion.
Oh yes.
Oh, yes.
He has too much pride to let him lose.
To lose to a rookie.
To lose to a ruck.
A real rookie.
A damn ruck.
Can we talk about how he did that on all days but Russell Westbrook Day?
God, I can't believe it.
It always happens. Like.
Always happens. It's
Every
almost
time he has a good game, it's on Russell Westbrook Day.
it's almost as
every
if
year.
every day is Russell Westbrook Day.
Almost.
Almost.
Not
Oh
quite.
wait.
Yeah, I still got that.
Senator, we run ads.
Alex, you gotta stop saying that. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
don't duck the
listeners.
Zucc.
Guys, so
Don't, you can't.
Eastern Conference. The only series that has been decided is the one between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat. The Sixers took that in 5 despite Dwayne Wade's best efforts. Alex?
Yeah, the one thing you can hope for is it's not the last hurrah for one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, Dwayne Wade, who, if he is to retire, didn't really get the farewell I don't think he deserved. Only that half season back home in Miami. But it's fair to say Philadelphia were the better team. I think 5 games, people think, they destroyed them more than they did. That last game was close. Miami probably should have taken game 4 when they needed to, and
And then they lost 2 more by 20.
put them in the... They lost 2 more. They only played 5 games. How in game 4 did they play 2 more games?
You know what I mean? They lost 2 more games by 20.
But
Like,
at the minute, Philly, they're playing really well, and it looks like they could be heading to the finals. People are saying... I'm starting to almost believe it with LeBron struggling. Boston or Milwaukee, they'll be playing in the second round, don't look like the greatest opponents, especially for Philadelphia. They might take care of them easy enough. The Raptors kind of reverting to their old style, and they've had a couple of injuries, especially with their bench. They have that collection of young stars in Simmons, Saric and Embiid, and then they have them savvy veterans, the snipers out there like Marco Bellinelli, Redick and Ilyasova. Like, they put up 18 plus threes in multiple games, and if you can do that 3 or 4 games in a series, then
not many teams can
not
stop
many
you.
teams can stop you. So Simmons played great in his first series as well, like Mitchell, averaging 18 points, 9 rebounds and 11 assists. So promising things from Simmons as well. And Embiid, who was kind of rusty for parts of that Miami series, has more experience, and I think he's going to be better in the second round.
Yeah, one, I suppose what we could take from that series is contrasting performances with Joel Embiid and Hassan Whiteside. We've seen Joel Embiid, he came in late, but he played brilliantly when he did come in. And Whiteside, he didn't turn up, and it was very disappointing. Not only for Heat fans but as a neutral, because we only saw 2 competitive games really, and I suppose at the start of the series we'd have expected maybe every game to be competitive, maybe one that mightn't have been. So where does Miami go from here?
Blow it up.
No, I don't think it's a blow it up. I don't know if you want to call it a rebuild or a retool. They have some solid young pieces there to build on for the future. Obviously, you have the All-Star and Dragic and Whiteside. They're both aging, and they could be maybe on the trade block while Dragic while he still has some value. But then there's Josh Richardson, who really improved this year. He's shown he was averaging over 20 points for a good portion of the season, which not many players do on the Heat team. They're such a team basketball, no one really gets the spotlight, so he was playing fantastic defensively and offensively. You have Justice Winslow, who really showed up in that playoffs, shutting down Ben Simmons at times, doing whatever he needs to do on both ends of the floor as well. And then Bam Adebayo, who outplayed Whiteside in that series as well with his athleticism and his defense. So them 3 kind of building blocks, if you can get rid of some of the older guys, bring in some younger guys, maybe some veterans to build around that, then you have a pretty good team for the future.
Well, over the last few days we've seen speculation about Miami looking to put in a trade bid for Kawhi Leonard. So should Hassan Whiteside be a part of that deal?
He'd have to be, really, for contracts, I'd say.
Yeah, contract wise, it's hard to know with Miami because there's so many different contracts. But if I was thinking maybe something like a Whiteside, Tyler Johnson, and then maybe one of the younger players like a Winslow or a Richardson like that, and a pick for a Leonard and a Paddy Mills to make the contracts balance. Could be something worth looking at for
Not the worst offer.
both sides.
It'd
Obviously, more would have to be involved, probably from the Miami side.
Mm.
It depends.
He is an expiring contract.
It
You have to
depends
keep that in
what
mind.
Kawhi Leonard's offers he's getting, because it's hard to trust him now. People
Sure.
are saying with
He's a
what
snake.
he's done with the Spurs.
But in Miami, even though it isn't a New York or Los Angeles, it's a pretty good market.
It's the next best thing.
It's
Really is,
yeah,
like.
it more or less is. And
And when you look at it in terms of
there's-
basketball, like,
there's good pieces around him. If they keep Dragic, they keep Adebayo.
And you get more money because it's tax free.
Lovely. Yeah. Yeah, so it's...
That's why players go to Miami.
yeah, but the Spurs aren't going to trade him there because he's not going to get tax.
Yeah, but you don't
No,
know.
but Kawhi might want to go there
I
because...
don't think the Spurs really care at this point where Kawhi wants to go.
True.
If
They're
He
not-
sat out a
they're-
full season.
If
Really?
the Memphis Grizzlies give the best offer, then Kawhi's going to Memphis.
Exactly.
That's how it is.
But realistically, they're not going to specifically send him to a worse place with a worse deal just to spite
No,
Kawhi Leonard.
they're getting the best offer.
But
Exactly.
what Popovich said, he's not looking really to trade him in the Western Conference, because was it the reports came out about
Going up
the
against him.
Lakers, that the Lakers would be in direct competition with the Spurs, and that's not what Popovich is looking to do.
I don't think the Spurs
So-
will be overly competitive next year.
Well, going forward, depending on what they get back for Kawhi Leonard,
Yeah.
and with the players DeJounte Murray and even LaMarcus Aldridge, who's still playing at a high level, I don't think they're going to want to trade him to the Lakers. No matter what level they're playing, it only taints their playoff hopes for next year, trading him to the Lakers.
Yeah, moving on.
That being said, if the Lakers give an irresistible deal for Kawhi Leonard,
Brandon Ingram, a pick.
Lonzo Ball,
That's too far.
They're just not going to trade Lonzo Ball, though.
Unless they get really sick
Of
of LeVar Ball.
LeVar's just...
What if they draft a certain individual with Ball as a second name? Ingram, Ball, and a pick. If anyone could make LiAngelo Ball a good NBA player, it's Coach Popovich. Come on.
It is, maybe that means Popovich to the Lakers.
He's involved in the trade. Kawhi and Popovich for Ingram, Ball, Kuzma, and Lopez.
it's like Doc Rivers.
Even though Lopez is probably expiring this year.
Like Doc Rivers when he went to the Clippers.
That was some cheese. Playoffs.
Playoffs. The Raptors and the Wizards. The Raptors are up 3-2 going into Game 6. I'll start with you,
Go
Killian.
Wizards.
This is a bit of a weird series. You said the Raptors are up 3-2. And when you think of it as a 1 versus 8 matchup, that's looking like, what are the Raptors doing? They're playing terribly, but the Wizards are no ordinary 8 seed. They have the talent to be a 4 or 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, and it's a bit of a weird matchup for the Toronto. But for Toronto, DeRozan has been absolutely amazing. He's been averaging 29 points per game in the playoffs. Though, like some other people, still not convinced they're making the finals. LeBron is still there, maybe, if he can get past Indiana, which is looking likely. And the Philadelphia 76ers, they still have to get through in order to make the finals. Everyone else has been solid, looking at the stats for the Raptors, but I'm not going to lie, I haven't watched any of their games, so I can't really speak on that too much. On the Wizards side of things, Wall and Beal have been doing their thing. Wall's been putting up 26 and 12, and Beal's been putting up 21 points per game. I think one aspect where they're kind of missing out, and if they are going to win this series, they're only down one game, it's looking possible. Markieff Morris needs to step up. He's shooting only 20% from 3, and he's the kind of stretch 4 big man who you need in order to succeed. But I still see Toronto winning this in 6, maybe 7 if
Yeah,
Morris
as
picks it up.
Killian said, Morris does need to pick it up with how aggressive Wall has been getting to the rim. He's playing his heart out, his pride for Washington. We saw the clip the last day of the dunk, and the explicit text afterwards that I'm not going to get into too much. He really wants it for the city of Washington. But Toronto as well, they lost a key member of their so-called bench mob in Fred VanVleet, who's been in and out of lineups with injuries, and it seems they're kind of reverting back to their old style of iso ball at times, which they can't do because we've seen how far that can get them in previous years.
Not
and
very.
it's not far enough for them. They need.
Please stop.
So fun.
But their stats don't really show that. They're different style of play. But the ball needs to be shared more, get the easier shots, and it'll make it easier for them on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, it's even though there is the game advantage towards the Raptors, it's a series that can go either way, and
no one's lost a home game.
No one's lost. Yeah, so good chance it will go to 7, and we did see a leak in the roof in Toronto in Game 1, and something so simple could throw the series either way. You wouldn't know, but yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of this series since Game 1, but the Raptors were pretty dominant in that, but I suppose as the series has progressed, they've looked less and less convincing, and if they get out of this round, that might be as far as they get, especially if if Cleveland get to the next round. Maybe, well, we'll move on to them in 2 minutes, but maybe the other players, as they get a bit more adjusted to each other, they can do better. We've seen the new players, Nance and Clarkson, they're still adjusting, or we hope, as neutrals, because we'd like to think that they can do better, but it's going to be difficult for the Raptors. They don't look like they'll be in the finals anyway. Which
we told you.
Prove us wrong, Toronto. Prove us wrong.
Please.
Yeah, so we'll move on to Cleveland and Indiana now. Cleveland are up by 3-2. It's been a shaky series for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but they are up a game, with Game 6 to be played in Indiana. So I'll start with you, Killian. Where is this going to go from here?
I have Cleveland in 6. It's just LeBron James, enough said. He's been absolutely incredible. That's what you expect. It's not even that great. It's just LeBron. It's average game. It's average stuff for him. You know what I mean? I said, Cavs will wrap this up in 6 unless Oladipo can revive himself, in which I have Cavs in 7. Because, moving on, Oladipo has been absolutely terrible. He had a brilliant Game 1. I think he had 32 or something. He had a lot of 3-pointers. Since then, he hasn't done a single thing. The Cleveland defense is really focused in on him. They double team him out of the pick and roll, even sometimes just in general, when he's just isoing out top. That has really affected his game. He's really struggled. He hasn't gotten past it. All he can do is pass out. And the Cleveland defense has really actually been quite decent compared to how bad they've been in the regular season.
Don't say we didn't tell you.
They pick it up for the playoffs.
They pick it up, especially by the man named LeBron James. He picks it up.
Of course he does.
Continue.
I said it after Game 1 that all Cleveland needed to do was improve their shooting, because they were getting open looks. They just weren't going in. J.R. Smith and Jeff Green in particular were having very bad shooting games in Game 1. But, they were playing okay defensively at the time. But as the series has progressed, we've seen they've taken the man from Indiana out of it. Oladipo just, after Game 1, hasn't been doing much. And, the rest of the team, even though they are good players, it's, no matter how good your team is, you're always going to struggle without your best player.
Yeah, that's true. But as well in the first game, just as you mentioned, they were shooting. In the first Game 1, Kyle Korver played very limited minutes. I think he only got in at garbage time in the end. And I said that Kyle Korver needs to play more minutes because their shooting was so poor. And Kyle Korver slots in, and he's been fantastic shooting the basketball, which you've got to predict. I mean, he rarely misses, rarely has an off night. Just one of them guys that just so consistent shooting the basketball. But it really is a compliment to Indiana and what they've done all year. When their man, as Oisin said, Victor Oladipo, has been quiet, the rest of them can step up, especially Lance Stevenson, who's been phenomenal for parts of this series. And so many role players and guys that just people forget about, like Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner.
Bogdanovich.
But they have a good team. It's just they're getting slept on almost because it's Indiana. And all them guys are stepping up. But Victor Oladipo is still leading that team. He still passes. He's still getting the baskets. And I agree, could have won the game. Should have won the game. Game 5 to put them up 3-2. LeBron's block was overruled as a goaltender in the 2-minute report. And if that had gone in, I don't know, it was LeBron James shooting a 3, down 2.
At the end of the day, the shot still went in. Goaltender or not, he still made the shot to win the game.
It's hard to know. It's a kind of, looking back on the series, especially with Victor Oladipo kind of whining about it after, it's not really a good look for him. You know, he's going to be out for blood in game 6. So, I don't know.
Yeah. That's why I say Cavs in 7 if Oladipo can revive himself. Because if Oladipo comes out guns blazing, I think he could help his team win game 6, but I don't see anyone beating LeBron James in game 7. His pride won't take a first round loss.
They did lose in game 1, which wasn't supposed to happen either.
Anything can
happen. Look out.
Or if, God forbid, LeBron gets injured, then
no, that doesn't happen.
Bless up.
We'll talk to Wood.
I mean, I feel like he could.
To bless up.
Sure.
Thank you.
It don't matter, but yeah, I feel like even if LeBron were to get injured, he would walk on that court with one arm, and he'd still cause hassle. That's just the player he is.
Truth.
Yeah. So
last year's playoffs where he just started shooting left-handed shots against the Raptors. Remember that?
Because he can.
He just shot like 3 left-handed hooks and faders, and they all went in. It was like,
left-handed jump shot at one point.
Last but definitely not least, the Celtics and the Bucks. They are 3-3 going into Game 7 in the Boston Garden. Killian, this has been quite the series, and with a bit of luck, we'll get a brilliant finish.
I told you what was happening, and it's still going to happen. Boston in 7. I said it exactly how it's going to be. It's been a very back and forth series. The home team has won every single game so far, so it's looking good if you're a Boston fan or player. I think for Boston, their MVP this series, it's not a question. It's been Jaylen Brown. He's been absolutely incredible. He's averaged 20 points and 5 rebounds for the series, as well as shooting 40% from 3. He's been brilliant on both sides of the floor. He looks so smart when he's just dribbling the basketball. I can't explain it.
He looks so smart dribbling that basketball. He knows exactly what he's at.
I think a few years from now, though, this is the series where we will say this is when Jaylen Brown became a star, personally. That's what I have to say about the matter.
Yeah, it's been a great series back and forth. Giannis had that heroic performance in Game 6 to force Game 7, I believe, putting up 34 points, putting the team on his back. As Killian said, home team has won every game, and Boston do have a great track record in Game 7,
19-4,
especially at home. But with what we saw in Game 6, with Antetokounmpo really putting the team on his back, if we see much more of the same in Game 7, it could be tough for Boston, because Boston are a good team, don't get me wrong, but come playoff time, it's always that kind of star that does pick it up. And Brown and Tatum have been playing well, along with Horford and even Marcus Smart when he came back recently, who's been a big addition, and I will be, I think, for Game 7. But when you have a player like Giannis who can go out there and just put up the big numbers, it's going to be hard, because you know that he will do that in Game 7. He will come out, because you know it's bad when the best defender on him has been Aaron Baines, and he's been dunked on.
What about Jesus Semilor Oyele? He's done bits on Giannis.
Bits.
For Game 5, and
bits of Game 6.
He did well in Game 5, and he did bits in Game 6. Giannis still put up 34.
Yeah, but
statistically, Aaron Baines, I think, is still the best, just because he gives them about 8 foot of room and gives them the mid-range.
Yeah, the stats showed, according to B-Ball Breakdown, that Aaron Baines did the best job at defending him with 50%, with Giannis scoring 50% from the field, with other players scoring high 50s, letting Giannis score high 50s, 60s. There's no stopping him. At least in this Boston team, even though they're a pretty good defensive team, they can't stop him. He's just unstoppable.
And he can't even shoot yet. He has a bit of a mid-range jumper. It looks ugly as all hell. It goes in sometimes, but it's just his ability to drive to the rim. And the finish he had on Horford the last day in the clutch to just go over a 7-foot man. It's just...
Yeah, but he had to floor Jason Tatum to get there.
And one defensive play...
Don't talk about flooring when you got Marcus Smart who flops.
One defensive play for the Milwaukee Bucks. Jaylen Brown is going up to the rim, and Thon Maker says...
What are you doing in my swamp?
Thon Maker did that multiple times throughout the series. He's been such a defensive presence for them. And... if the Bucks are to win in Game 7, he'll need to do much more the same.
Thon Maker has just been... He arguably, he is the defensive player of the playoffs. He's been...
Thus far, yeah.
He's just been so good. Even though, I suppose, you might only see the highlights and the blocks, but just consistently, game after game, whether they've won or lost, he's been unbelievable.
I think something worth mentioning, though, he does average more blocks than rebounds. That's something you don't really want out of your centre.
Yeah, but when your average height of your team out there for the Bucks is probably 6'9", 6'10" at times.
Yeah, but you got a 7'1" dude
Giannis
in the middle.
Antetokounmpo, Jabari Parker, Chris Middleton, your shooting guard, who's 6'9".
Yeah, but
like
you got a 7'1"
Thon
dude in the
Maker,
middle, and he can only pull down
Tyler
2.5
Zeller.
rebounds a game.
They must have 5 or 6 guys
Come on.
in the rotation over 6'10". It's
2.5
ridiculous.
rebounds
Not,
for a centre.
not only the height, but the length of the Bucks and their wingspan and their height. They're such a long team, and they really are scary for the future.
So, what do I see happening in Game 7?
Kobe Middleton goes off for 35.
I don't think he's missed a shot this year. Honestly. Like, you look at the stats, say he missed 1 shot in Game 6, 2 in Game 8. He doesn't miss, honestly.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. I think he could have a big Game 7.
Hopefully not.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the defensive focus goes on to Antetokounmpo, especially what he did in Game 6, and might maybe give a little bit more room for Middleton and a bit more room to
The
play
way
with.
is to stop Middleton. It's kind of the whole way that Golden State defend LeBron. Just let him do whatever he wants, just as long as nobody else does anything. I think that's the way they have to try and defend the Bucks. Let Giannis do what he wants, score all his points. He can have 40 points, as long as nobody else gets over 15, 10 maybe. That's the way to win.
Yeah, whatever happens, whatever team wins.
Celtics.
Whatever team wins, I'm sure this will be an amazing game, as the whole series has been so far. No game has really let us down. So, just to round up what round 2 might look like, the Rockets will play either Oklahoma or Utah. The Warriors will play the Pelicans. The Raptors or the Wizards will play the Cavs or the Pacers. And the Celtics or Bucks will play the Sixers.
Some exciting matchups in there.
Yeah.
Boston Philly, even if it's not the best series, it'll be an intense one. It'll be like there'll be a lot of kind of fighting, I'd say, going on. They have a bit of a rivalry. It'll get dirty.
We've seen what Rozier can do to Bledsoe. Imagine what Ben Simmons could do to Bledsoe.
Bledsoe won't be in the series.
Okay, imagine what Ben Simmons could do to Terry Rozier.
Nothing.
Yeah, just, I'd like to briefly mention just how good Ben Simmons was. We kind of brushed
Glossed
over him a
over
bit.
it.
But he was...
I'd love to see Ben Simmons go up against Giannis Antetokounmpo. That would be a good
Shame it's
series.
not going to happen. Maybe next year.
Ben Simmons, he was he's averaging 1 assist away from a triple-double. For a rookie in his first playoff series, that's phenomenal. That's
Personally, I think Mitchell's stats have been better. I think Mitchell's been the better player this playoffs. I mean, they were the Jazz were not favoured to win the series at all. Oklahoma, I think, were the favourites by some margin, and he just led this team. And people kind of, they say, you know, that when you fill the stats, it's a bit better, like, oh, whatever, 18, 11, and 9. But when you put up 28 points and lead that team, it's just big. It's massive performance from Mitchell, I think.
But when you
Right now,
contribute
right now
over
I'd
40
have-
points,
But right now, I'd have playoff Mitchell over playoff Simmons.
Well, like, we do have to consider that Joel Embiid was injured for 2 games. Therefore, Miami, you know, they did it for game 2. They were able to isolate Ben Simmons because if he couldn't pass it, the other players around him, they had a very terrible shooting game
Get
2.
him more aggressive.
Yeah. Whereas when Joel Embiid was there, they weren't able to aggressively guard the two of them.
Don't get me wrong, Simmons, his basketball IQ and his vision to pass the ball is one of the best in the league. But if a lot of his assists come very easy, especially when the rest of his teammates are hot, it's a Redick, a Bellinelli, or Ersan Ilyasova, or a Saric, anyone come around the screen and pulling up for a shot. And when you have guys like that, 90% of the time it's going in. So I think it's kind of overlooked, his assists maybe, even his rebounds, when they have their version of the death lineup, their European international lineup, or sorry, they call it. And they have guys like Ilyasova and Saric out there as well. Simmons is kind of inclined to get most of the rebounds. And especially seeing he'd be on a big man most of the time, so he's in close to the rebounds.
still doesn't change the fact he gets 11 rebounds a game.
I'm just saying though, putting it into perspective, like, that's why I would rather have Mitchell. And especially since Mitchell is doing it against 3 superstars in OKC.
Even then, you talk about his assists and how they come easy, which, you know,
Some
passes
of
a
them
guy
do. Don't
coming
get
off
me
pick and
wrong, his
roll.
passing is fantastic, but a lot of his
A
passes
lot of that, even
come
still
quite
that,
easy.
it's not as easy as it seems. You have to hit them with perfect rhythm for them to keep hot. You can't just throw them any kind of a pass. He's got to shoot
Not
that
when
up.
Marco Bellinelli and JJ Redick are hot. They can pick the ball off the floor, shoot it, and still going in. You didn't watch most of the series, Mark.
I mean, I didn't want to watch murder. That's kind of illegal.
Just in other news, the Ball brothers are leaving Europe. Can we just have a
we're
moment?
wrapping up there on
Can we have a moment's silence?
Well, LiAngelo's going to the NBA. LaMelo needs to do more if he's going to try and make the NBA. So, like...
Well, like,
I watched a
No
clip there
one's-
last day of Michael Jordan talking, and he said the video was captioned, "Did Michael Jordan predict the Ball brothers?" We'll just leave that there for a second.
Damn,
But
I
it
think
was-
I can clickbait.
It was kind of accurate what he was saying. He was talking about how, especially when you're given that money, when you've no worth ethic really, because these players come out of college, they all have money under their belts at that point. Back in the day, guys like Jordan, Barkley, old school guys, they wanted to get the NBA to support themselves and support their families. Nowadays, these guys going to the league are already in luxury, and they just want to get there, and that especially for the Ball family, who they could retire right now and still make a living off their company and off basketball.
Make a living off Lonzo.
yeah. So where is?
And shout out to Zoe as well.
Who?
That's their incoming newest Ball.
Okay.
Lonzo's daughter.
Oh.
Zoe Tina Ball.
Oh,
Look
God.
out.
Stopping. The flight from Lithuania to America is quite a long one. Do you think they might stop over at Team Eurostep on the way?
It's on the way. Not really.
Look out.
Well, you see, if you come over to Ireland,
Senator, we run ads.
Who couldn't resist that? Well, on that note, gonna say that's
On
good.
that bombshell.
It's gonna be a goodbye from me, a goodbye from Killian, and a goodbye from
Yeah.
Alex. We'll be
Oh,
we'll
God.
be back on. Please, Alex, never say that again. We're gonna be back on Wednesday. Until next time, keep grinding.